Organizational psychology has been ever-changing over the past century as the conventional definition of a job changes and technology evolves. Organizational psychology evolves with it. A very recent historical event that has affected the course of research in organizational psychology is COVID-19. As we know, COVID struck the world in early 2020 and resulted in a mass pandemic and many countries quarantining for safety. With mass quarantining came mass teleworking. Any and all jobs that could be sourced from home were pushed during this time to develop some method of working from home or teleworking. Although teleworking and working from home existed before quarantine, COVID greatly accelerated this modern developing trend. Teleworking affects the course of research in organizational psychology because it can have severe negative effects, particularly blurring the lines between work and non-work lives. Previous research has recognized this issue of separation of work and non-work lives, but as teleworking becomes more common, the topic becomes more essential to research. COVID has accelerated the usage of teleworking, and it is likely that post-COVID we will continue seeing more and more teleworking happening. What this means for organizational psychology is a developing trend that has become the standard within the past year. Yes, people will eventually return to their normal work structure, but some may not. Organizations, employers, and employees may decide working from home, or at a minimum, working less in the office, may be beneficial, potentially for productivity or financially beneficial. This creates an immediate need to shift direction in organizational psychology to focus on the impacts of mass teleworking. Research can often take years to complete, and it is possible that by then organizations will have already suffered from potential negative effects. Socialization represents the process by which an individual makes the transition from outsider to organizational member. In my following remarks, I will describe the socialization process of Liberty University's graduate program in industrial organizational psychology. The socialization process began with the welcome letter. The welcome letter from the university introduced me to the common values and beliefs held here at Liberty. In addition, the welcome letter set a precedence through formality and language that Liberty was welcoming me into their family-like organization. Liberty University continued the socialization process with outreach events that are available for online students. These events range from seminars to sporting events, and the university stays persistent in informing students of these opportunities. This is an important distinction. As an online university, students are spread out all over the country, but Liberty makes a conscious effort to connect and invite as many students as possible to increase a sense of belongingness. Within the classroom, the socialization process is seen through interactive online discussion boards, where students must engage with one another on topics to discuss and reflect their point of view. In addition, the first assignment in each class is a discussion board post introducing yourself. This allows students to get to know each other better beyond academics. For these reasons, being the welcome letter, the outreach events, and the discussion-based online classrooms, I believe that Liberty is successful as an online university in its socialization process. However, there is always room for improvement. From my experience, it can be very difficult to create job embeddedness within an online learning environment. To improve this shortfall, the university could introduce live lectures with working IO psychologists to create more networking and gather real-world experience from other professionals. This would create more job embeddedness by connecting students with potential future employers, internships, and/or subject matter experts in the field. In discussing ways an organization can reduce or prevent work-family conflict, I'm going to discuss two studies, Greenhaus and Beutell as proactive prevention and Krouse and Afifi as reactive reduction to the work-family conflict. Greenhaus and Beutell recognized three main causes of the work-family conflict: time, strain, and behavior. Time refers to but time devoted to one role, either work or family, that makes it difficult to fulfill the requirements of the other role. Some examples of time within the work domain would be hours worked, inflexible work schedule, and shift work. Examples of time within the family domain can consist of young children, spouse employment, or large families. An organization can reduce the potential factor of time on the work-family conflict by being cognizant of employee family types and effectively communicating time expectations within the organization. This means giving proper advance notification on scheduling and potential projects that may be time demanding. The second cause listed is strain. Strain can be produced by one role making it difficult to fulfill the requirements of another role. Examples of strain in the work domain can be role conflict, role ambiguity, or boundary spanning activities. Examples of strain in the family domain may consist of family conflict or low spouse support. Similar to reducing time as a cause of the work-family conflict, to reduce strain, organizations can effectively communicate expectations and role assignments to employees. In addition, to address potential strain within family domain, organizations can establish a family-oriented group to focus on building rapport and communication between spouses, employees, and organizational leadership. The third cause listed is behavior. Similar to time and strain, behavior can lead to a work-family conflict due to required roles making it difficult to fulfill the requirements of another role. Within the work domain, this may take the form of expectations for secretiveness and objectivity, while in the family domain, this may be contrasted with expectations of warmth and openness. I can see government work dealing with clearances and security being a likely environment for behavioral inconsistencies. While it may not be possible to share all work information with family, an organization could engage spouses and family members to better explain the nature and reasoning of why information is potentially dangerous to share. Using these three identified causes from Greenhaus and Beutell, organizations can take a proactive, preventive approach to the work-family conflict. Regardless, work-family conflict may occur anyways, so next I will cover some reactive reduction strategies described by Krouse and Afifi for the work-family conflict. Krouse and Afifi identified a number of coping mechanisms commonly used to reduce the work-family conflict. The top three identified were venting with coworkers for catharsis, work immersion, and work as a social outlet. These three coping mechanisms all share the common factor of workplace cohesion. To reduce the effects of work-family conflict, an organization can monitor and improve their workplace cohesion by providing an environment for effective coping mechanisms. An example of this would be social work functions within or outside the office to build strong relationships amongst coworkers. There are many models of job performance development by organizational psychologists. Here I will be discussing Murphy's model of job performance in relation to developing a performance assessment program for employee development using police as the example. Murphy identified two subcategories of job performance: in-role and extra-role. In-role specifically refers to task-oriented behaviors, meaning performing major tasks associated with the job. Measuring a police officer's task-oriented behavior would include physical fitness, weapons proficiency, and knowledge of rules and procedures. These task-oriented behaviors are all measured during their training at the police academy. While physical fitness and weapons proficiency are measured annually, maintaining standardized testing annually or biannually would be efficient for measuring employee development. Outside of in-role exists extra-role that deals with behaviors outside of normal task-oriented behaviors. These include interpersonal-oriented behaviors, downtime behaviors, and destructive or hazardous behaviors. Interpersonal behaviors refer to all interpersonal transactions that occur on the job. To measure this within the police force, We could use personality tests like the BFI, NEO, or MMPI, many of which will already requirements within the Academy. These personality-based tests would be administered biannually or quarterly to monitor any severe changes during the employee development process. In addition to personality tests, biannual or quarterly confidential peer reviews can be administered to close coworkers, like partners or supervisors, to monitor potential changes within interpersonally oriented behaviors. Next, under extra role, is downtime behaviors. This refers to behaviors outside of work that affect job performance. This can also be measured by a broader peer evaluation within the department and through interviews with the new employee. I will note that this is the most difficult performance dimension to measure, as it may not be known by coworkers or honestly conveyed by the new employee what their behaviors are outside of work. Finally, under extra role is destructive or hazardous behaviors. These behaviors refer to safety violations, sabotage, or accidents. This can be monitored through monthly record reviews of performance and incidents on the job. As compared to downtime behavior, destructive or hazardous behaviors within a police department would be much easier to track, as the department will already be keeping records of that information. As an organizational psychologist, the key task in developing this performance assessment would be collecting the necessary information, whether it already exists, like a records review, or creating the measurements, like in peer evaluations and personality testing. Next, a critical analysis of all measurements would need to be conducted and employee progression monitored. It is important to note that it would be unlikely one area would create a red flag, but rather the interaction and changes over time across all areas would provide the best performance assessment for employee development for a police officer. Organizational constraints can lead to counterproductive behavior. Peters and O'Connor identified 8 common organizational constraints. I will go through each organizational constraint and give an example within context of a retail employee. 1. Job-related information. This is the information needed to do the job assigned. An example of this would be an ineffective employee orientation, resulting in the retail worker not knowing what their assigned tasks are, i.e. whether they should be working the floor or the register. 2. Tools and equipment. These are the specific tools, equipment, and machinery needed to do the job assigned. An example of this would be not enough scanners to conduct inventory. 3. Materials and supplies. These are the materials and supplies needed to do the job assigned. An example of this would be not enough anti-theft tags to place on required merchandise. 4. Budgetary support. This is the financial resources and budgetary support needed to do the job assigned, or the monetary resources needed to accomplish aspects of the job. This category does not refer to the employee's own salary, but rather to the monetary support necessary to accomplish tasks that are part of the job. For example, the store needed to be decorated for the upcoming holidays, but the organization does not have the monetary resources to purchase the necessary decorations. 5. Required services and help from others. This is the services and help from others needed to do the job assigned. Within context of the retail employee, they may have absent coworkers or be short-handed for operating the store during peak hours. 6. Task preparation. This is the personal preparation through previous education, formal company training, and relevant job experience needed to do the job assigned. For example, the floor manager does not come to work and a new employee must cover down on their tasks, but they do not know nor were they trained on the managerial tasks. 7. Time availability. This is the availability of time needed to do the job assigned, taking into consideration both the time limits imposed and the interruptions of non-job related distractions. For example, the retail employee is told to have the store decorated by tomorrow, but the mall is closing in 2 hours, not giving enough time to complete the task. 8. Work environment. The physical aspects of the immediate work environment need to do the job assigned. For example, the retail employee store has a broken air condition or inefficient lighting to conduct inventories. All of these organizational constraints can lead to counterproductive behaviors brought on by frustration, the intent to quit, and anxiety. Spector and Jex observe the relationship between organizational constraints and job strain. As listed here, we can see that these three aspects of job strain, i.e. frustration, intent to quit, and anxiety, are all positively correlated with organizational constraints. From these job strains, we can expect counterproductive behavior such as work avoidance, malingering, absentness, and overall poor work performance.